I got the pictures looking all crazy.
Good morning.
Good morning, Terry.
It's nice to be back live.
Hey, what's the weather where you're at?
It's cold.
It's 80 degrees, right? Can you see?
Shush.
Like I'm sweating. I'm in Florida.
You're
It's
in Florida.
80 degrees.
I'm not sure what the temperature is exactly, but it was earlier minus 23 Celsius, so it was cold. Like probably about five below Fahrenheit.
Someone else was talking to me on the phone yesterday, and they were in a super cold area. And I keep telling people, this is where it's at. Come on. But some people say it's too hot. I see some people watching. Hit the like button, share, subscribe if you haven't. But let us know you're there in the comments.
Mm-hmm.
So we're hanging out today. I even had the nerve to light a fire because someone gave me some wood from next door. They're still chopping up trees from the hurricane in October, September sometime.
They're finally getting at it, are they?
Yeah, because there was a big giant tree that fell down just behind my house. Thank God it didn't mess up my fence in my house or my internet, but but it's still sitting over there. Hey, Lakeside Laura.
Hello, Lakeside Laura.
She was at Journey to Truth the last couple of years. I do believe I'm going. I just don't know what I'm doing. Am I just going to sit in the audience or I'm going to have a table? So,
Oh, I'd love to go, but I'm got everything because I'm in Canada. Everything costs me like almost an added 50%. So if it costs you 100, it costs me 150. So I have to be cautious. I do have. I'm going down to Indiana with our
right, for Amber.
Yeah, she's doing a retreat, so I'm going to do a presentation there. And
Is
that's
she still looking for people to come or like participants and stuff?
I think she is. Yeah. I can send you a link to that if you
You have to show people that sometime.
Yeah, and then I'm hoping to go down to the Florida one in July. That's what is that one that Brian?
Disclosure now. How do you
Yeah.
say it? Disclosure. Full disclosure now. There you go.
Yeah. So I'm hoping to go down to that one in July. So my travel budget is not exactly open to a lot of traveling right now. However, it's funny because if we go to the cards, I have the travel card came up. So, so I'm open to it. I just need let the money come.
That's right. Yeah. I'm trying to show the full disclosure now thing on the screen so people can see it. Let's see, share screen, full disclosure now conference with Brian Singh and Ida. And yeah, so 2025 down there in Sarasota Beach, St. Pete. The hotel was good, Terry. Food was good, Terry.
Mm-hmm.
It made it worth it. Yeah, with Brian Singh. Depends on childcare. Bring the 9-year-old. If you can go to the one, the full disclosure now, they got swimming pool in front of the beach. You got both.
Ooh.
Got a nice cabana. And across down the street, like less than a mile away, is like Publix and stuff like that. Like you can actually go to the grocery store. It's not like secluded. I thought it would be way more secluded, like we'd be away from stuff, but it's really cool. Definitely you want to go to the dollar store, Dollar General, and the CVS and stuff up the street rather than downstairs in that little store. You know, I was like, I'm going to write a letter because this is just awful.
Yeah.
It was like, I'm going to just say it. 10 pads for $10. I could not believe it. Because back in the day, they put if you had an emergency, they'd have that stuff inside bathrooms already, like for 25 cents. I could not believe that they had the nerve to charge $10 for 10 pads. I was like, that's disgusting.
Yeah.
No, it was disgusting. But because that's like a medical item. You like, why would you try to make money off of that? But anyway, that's just me. Another thing, booking.com. Okay, so let's just talk about, since we were going to talk about travel, because with booking.com, you got to be careful because when you go places, there is a resort fee that they don't tell you about, and then there's a parking fee. So when you're going places with booking.com, so it's the Serata, that's one thing I found like, I don't like having to pay for the parking fee, but so be it. So be it. So
Yeah.
just things you have.
Yeah, like every place, they all wanted, they always extra, 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 and it was. I know that since the pandemic, then the prices just jumped from they were here to way up here, and it's just ridiculous. I know a lot of people were just complaining, cost of hotels and everything is just increased so much.
Yeah, because they have a way to make the price look competitive, but then be like, "Oh, surprise!"
Yeah. You want pillows? Oh, that's a little bit extra. You want a blanket? Oh, that's another. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, I'm never did. I don't know. I went to this great place in Daytona. I was so not. That was like the first time I had not been disappointed. There was no humidifier noise. Like we didn't need a humidifier. They had a good view. Oh man, it's the Super Bowl this weekend, Terry. Does anybody in your family?
No.
Canadians don't care about the Super Bowl? What's wrong
Well,
with
I
you?
don't know. I drive myself, so I don't care about the Super Bowl. Does anybody else? Maybe they do. I don't know. I don't know. Does not come onto my topic of discussion.
I just used to enjoy going to the Super Bowl parties and like the ladies have a chili cooking contest.
Ah.
For me, it was the fun part. And then somebody has to have like who's got the best buffalo dip.
Mm.
I'm one of those kind of girls.
Ah.
I really
Well,
am.
that's yeah. You know what? That sounds like it would be fun.
I love it.
Yeah.
I
Are you
love
going
it.
to Are you going to a Super Bowl party?
Yeah, I'm gonna go to Daytona and watch the Super Bowl.
Oh.
I don't know if I'm cooking any chili.
Ooh. Well, you can do
But I'll
some.
be near the beach, and so I can like walk to the beach, and yeah, so I can do stuff.
Hmm. Well, that sounds like a good time. Are
Yeah, I
you
don't
going?
know. I don't
Well,
know
how
how.
many days? How many days are you going to go for?
Two, maybe two.
Cool.
You know me, I play it by ear anyway,
Mm.
so it just really just depends on
Yeah.
how I
On
feel.
things. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
that
But
sounds.
it was just cool to be invited to something during the Super Bowl. Um, right. I think, yeah, I just missed that. That was the part of my old church days.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we used to make sure to have the singles, the singles at our church used to have like lots and lots and lots of activities.
Well,
Some
that's
some invasive and some non-invasive.
well, it
But I
sounds like a
survived.
good time.
Yeah, I survived. I think a lot of people like they say, "Oh, church," but there was some good stuff. I built some good foundations on certain things, and now I'm in university now.
Well, you know what? It's nice to have those places to socialize. I got together with a friend of mine yesterday, and she's a psychologist, and she's retired. But one of the things that she said was that it was very disturbing to see how isolated people have become, and how they are not able to interact with people.
Right,
And
because they're not going. Church has lots of activities.
yeah,
Bingo. And I'm not trying to push church, y'all. I'm just trying to tell you, like,
no,
it's a lifestyle for people that it allows for expression.
yeah,
Christmas, we used to do tours for tots. We used to go to these orphanages and these other neighborhoods, and we used to gather up our own toys and we would pass out toys. That was freaking fun. They had soup kitchens we would go to. I really enjoyed that. Um, I enjoyed like the parties where the single people would get together and have cookouts and stuff like that. Or sometimes the church I used to go to, we used to have all kinds of just picnics and cookouts. Like we'd have church outside sometimes in a park, and we just all swap food. But it was like the social activities, and I feel like in this new life, there's some activities that we used to do that I like that stuff. And that stuff I miss, and I kind of like miss it for my son as well. Like my son never had a chance to go to a soup kitchen and serve people, and doesn't know,
Yeah.
doesn't
And
know what it's like to be hungry or anything like that. But he doesn't even know people that are hungry. So it's like a detachment from the world or suffering. Honestly, when I went to this orphanage, there was so many adorable little girls, and I just was like, oh my God, but I no longer live in that state. And I was just like, oh, like I would have really attached myself to that orphanage and tried to give as much as I can, because Terri, did you know I went to school for social work?
No.
Yeah. So my first major was
I didn't know that. I know you went for film school and you ended up, becoming a lab tech and now Cosmic Mama.
My very first major was social work. That film school and stuff didn't happen until after the Army, and I became a lab technician. So that's why I did all that stuff. But my first major was social work because I really wanted to help. And I was working. Well, they assign you to go to a facility where you can serve. So mine was Sojourner Truth Homeless Shelter, and it was in West Virginia. And I was going through the dorms, gathering clothes, and they actually pulled me aside and said, you got to stop. You can't, these people, it was crazy. They could only have like 4 or 5 outfits. You couldn't own a car. You couldn't or if you did have a car, you could only have a car of a certain value. You couldn't have certain money in the bank. So I was looking at it like, wow, how do you get on your feet when you can't have anything?
Yeah.
But you're supposed to. So, but I just remember this little girl walking on the back of her shoes, and I was just wanting to go to, I think I did actually go to Dollar General or somewhere, Family Dollar, and bought her a pair of shoes so she didn't have to walk on the back of her shoes. But it was this point where I had to stop because I wasn't allowed to bring them anything anymore. Anyway, that was my first major. So I like those type of activities. You know what I think? Sometimes these stories are so random, but it fits right into, I think it fits into what we're going to talk about, which is safe space and allowing. Because in my heart, I do want to fix everything for people. And I want to oh, it's broken. Okay, let me help you with this. And I'm like, I start to wonder, am I crippling people or am I helping people? Like with your kids, how much can you do?
Yeah. Well, and there's a fine line when it comes to that. We can separate ourselves when we're dealing with society, but when it comes to our loved ones, it's hard to balance where we're going with them. Is like, we don't want them to suffer, but then if we stop them from suffering, then they're just going to suffer more down the line. So they got
you want to wrap them up and give them everything, and I'm like, oh, how do you not do that?
I think that's, there's that saying in society, like people, and I'm going to butcher this, but like the when you don't have anything, you work hard to give your kids, to give your family everything, and then your family has everything, and then the next generation doesn't have anything because they don't know how to do anything for themselves. And then so then that cycle begins, because when you give them everything, then they don't know how to fend for themselves, and or when you solve their problems, it's like, um, I don't know what the answer is, but when your kid comes home and they've been bullied in school, what do you do? Do you
Get ready
go
to go fight somebody.
but I don't know what the answer is. But like that's a really bullying is a big one. Like, do you say to your kid, you go back and fight them, or do you say, "Oh no, that's okay," or do you run to the principal and say something? I don't know. It's that's
It's
a
tough because if you go to the principal now, your kid looks like a wimp.
yeah.
But if you're like me and you get shoved outside,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and
you're
I didn't.
like,
I
he's like,
brought
get
that
back
one up.
out there, you gotta fight. And it's like, okay, I got dirt in my eye. I'm like,
And I don't know why that one came up, but I think that's a really hard one, as as a parent or as a child. How do you deal with that sort of thing? And it's rampant in our society, and so like, how do you how do you solve that problem? You don't solve the problem. You can't solve the problem.
ooh wee. Well, Terry, since you brought it up, well, I got a slide for you.
Okay.
Let me see if
I
I
wasn't, I don't know why I brought that up. I wasn't even thinking about that today, but
right. It's really cool how this works.
yeah.
Let me see how this works because I don't know how. Oh, this is how it works. So, the funny thing was, we were going to talk about safe space because I think that has been in the peer review for me for a while once I learned what it was.
Hmm.
And so, I'm going to go through the definitions of like what these words are. So, there's holding space. Um, I feel like a lot of people right now, they're either having the best time of their life or they're approaching some type of pinnacle, or some people are feeling like it's the worst time of their life and they're surrounded by their problems. The problems are all in their face and they're trying to stay strong while the problems are approaching. All I can see is like little Pac-Man, the ghost from Pac-Man, and he's trying to eat these pellets and the ghosts are coming to try to eat him up. And he's like, freaking A, I know there's four of y'all. Like back then, I know there's four of y'all. You got these little ghost problems hanging around. But, I got to keep going, right? He keeps going and tries to get to all the power pellets because he's got stuff to do. No time to worry about the ghosts, but you kind of got to worry about the ghosts in the middle of the day to day, right? So holding space is the art of being present with a person without judgment. Like when they say something, you're not judging them, but you're also not trying to fix it or impose a solution. It's deep listening. And what if, and this was great because in our class last week, that was the best part about the class. We had a time to fix, but then we also had times to hold space and to not judge. And I guess when you're even as a healer therapist or something like that, the part about not judging it, like, oh my God, you did that, or why did you feel that way? You felt like judging someone's emotions or feelings or reactions, but instead figuring out what it is that they want from you to feel better. And sometimes people don't want anything at all but to be heard. And so there's a natural, without any force or expectation, you honor someone's autonomy. I got a magic word when it comes to this. With holding space for people, what I've learned is this magic word called fuckery. So there's things that Terri won't do, but that I will do. I like a certain levels of fuckery. There's certain things that Terri does that I'm like, what? I know you guys can't believe it, but Terri trips sometimes. Anyway, but just all your friends, right? Like some people do things that you might find risque or rude or over the top, but it's like, okay, how do I allow that person to be them and have their journey, but I can still listen?
Mm-hmm.
But if it's overwhelming for me, maybe I have to remove myself out of the picture. I got to know what I can handle. If I can't handle it, then, maybe I got to cheer for you from the sidelines. But to be that person, to be able to listen and share an intimate space with a person, it's a beautiful thing, if we can allow, by holding space. Then there's a thing called safe space. Well, that's what you create when you hold space, right? You create safe space, an environment with physical or emotional, spiritual, where individuals can be seen, heard, and valued without judgment, harm, or invalidation. Invalidation, I think, is a huge part of this because, well, why did you say that? Why did you do that? Well, you should be happy. I think should goes along with the invalidation because
Mhm.
it's like what you should have done, should have said, should have felt, should have, and it's like, okay, without trying to understand what the person really, why they felt the way they did, and honor them to be like, you are justified for being afraid. Like, I
Mhm.
understand that. There's nothing wrong with you being afraid. That's a valid part of you, a survival instinct. Um, you were angry and you lashed out. Of course, you don't always have to lash out, right? But that person is responding because of some type of trauma they have in their life. I understand why you were angry. I understand why you were short tempered. There's just allowing the person the understanding that even though that might not be how you would have handled it, that they did the best that they could with the information and the level of healing that they had without making them feel like they're always wrong.
Right.
Because we, I think all the thoughts about the wrong and who was right and who was wrong, it really gets into, now you get deeper into perspective and opinion when we need to get deeper into understanding. So this could be a sacred circle, conversation with a friend, or even a personal ritual where one feels free to express their authentic self. Now, one thing that me and Kimmy in class kind of decided, because as you change and grow in life, sometimes there really isn't a shoulder or a voice that can allow you safe space. But there's always your guides,
Mhm.
your spiritual hierarchy, or the creator, whether you see it as God or whether you see it as source energy. When you speak it into existence, talking to your higher self, you can always create safe space for yourself. And so, as me and Kimmy had this discussion, we decided, you know what? Our problem is disappointment with the expectation that others can handle what we're going through. Some We need to create a direct line with the creator or with our source energy, with our higher self, to go there first instead of outsourcing to other people, because sometimes other people don't have the capability to provide that safe space that
Yeah.
we need.
I just want to just add something there. I know when I started my spiritual journey back around 2000, it was I was discovering and learning things that I had no one to share with, and there was no one to talk about things with, because their communities were very, they were there, but you know what, you didn't know where to find them. And so what you just said was exactly what I had to do, was to sit and talk with my higher self and my guides, and like, like, help me to go through this. And it was interesting because that that dialogue developed with my intuition, with my higher self, whatever you want to call it. But it was what helped me. I created that space. And so I would go into meditation, or go into just a place, turn on some meditative music and just sit with it. And I just created that space like a meditation room. That's a physical space that you can go in and put some crystals in there, put some nice, like some nice symbols, or statues or colors, or whatever, because you're actually then creating a space for yourself that you can call your safe space.
Yeah, sometimes your shoulders get so wide, no one else can understand that burden.
Mhm.
And hopefully, I mean, even when it comes to that, you can ask you can ask for that, right? Ask the creator to send you someone. But definitely what me and Kimmy decided last week, I thought it was amazing because this is where there's no failure in that, like we're always able
Mm-hmm.
to tap into what we need because of this now,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
this knowing. The next one, I'm gonna close the window real quick. Unconditional love.
Ah, unconditional love. That's a hard one for a lot of people to uh,
I think a lot of people have a very skewed perception of this, but I think sometimes when you have a kid, sometimes that's how you learn it.
mhm.
Because kids don't give you the freaking results. You got all the plans. When I was younger, I thought when I had my son, I'm going to let him watch Dora, listen to Spanish. Oh, we're gonna do math, such and such and such, and I was gonna create a genius person who was gonna be just, this all around great person. And then he's a great person still, but when the first time I played some Spanish stuff for him, he was like, turn that off. When I used to sing Terry, he used to pop me in my mouth. Like, this is a 1-year old who go, don't sing. He was freaking hilarious. He was a strong-willed kid who would not. I'm gonna tell you, could swim so good. He would catch the rings at the bottom of the pool and do all this stuff. I took him to the Y. I forgot he's here. I took him to the Y so he could be on the swim team, and they were like, he's an amazing swimmer, but we don't want him because instead of going up the lane, he would go sideways on purpose. He was strong-willed. So this is a person that you could not bribe him with candy or nothing. And so I was in this book called The Beauty of My Mess Part 2, and we talked about who the first time we fell in love, and I said, well, the first time I truly fell in love was with my son. But then through the writing, I understood too that this is the first person that I love no matter what. Like, even if he does, he could yell, he could do whatever he did. Like, I'm not going to retrieve my love from him and relinquish it. Right. And
Right.
so there's people in our lives that we can be upset with, but what if they disappoint us and you still love them? Because I
Yeah.
think too, from the outside looking in, even when you see people in a relationship and you're like, oh my God, he did this to you, she did this to you. And from the outside, we're like, ugh, but we don't know what these two people provide for each other, whether we would like to call it toxic or not. But sometimes people disappoint you and you still just fucking love them. You know what I mean? You just, that is just it. And is it a crime?
And I think that's just, unconditional love is just that, is unconditional. They're going to have a meltdown. Okay. Then I have a meltdown. Okay. Whatever. But
Right.
it doesn't change the fact that I care for that person, or that person cares for me. You're in it through whatever you have to go through.
Through illness, watching someone be sick,
Yeah.
or watching someone be depressed, and so in my home, that's what we've dealt with is, but but what about the days when I'm it's funny because I think it's something that we want sometimes, but we've justified not giving it to others because I can be irrational and I can be emotional and I can be what do you call it, paranoid,
Hmm.
because I'm like, oh no, this person thinks, I can assume what people think and assume what people feel and direct all emotions towards me. I can be this way. I try hard not to, but I can. And I would love for someone to love me through that. And I think I wrote about that on Facebook one time too. Like, who doesn't want to be loved unconditionally? And I guess the issue for most people is finding someone who's worth being loved unconditionally, because sometimes we give it to people, but I don't know, this thing is unpredictable, I think, and it's not something we can control, but I do think it's something we should strive to obtain.
Mm-hmm.
Conditional love, like my mom may never understand, our metaphysical life. Can I still love her?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's the part about being multi-dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
Like whatever you feel like about baseball, basketball is rigged and all sports are rigged, but your spouse watches sports. Can you still go to a game with your spouse, knowing and what you know and feeling what you feel, and still kind of allow the person to enjoy the thing that they enjoy without inserting all your negative thoughts?
Yeah.
Can you go to Thanksgiving dinner and know that, Mama Sarah, is
Yeah.
extreme Orthodox, blah, 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 blah. Let her do her rituals and still, love her and honor her. You know what? It reminds me of that book, because remember I told you about this book a long time ago called Fuck Jesus. And I was like, I don't think it's ever a point where we need to get
Mm-hmm.
so intense with what we know. Like, can you know what you know
Yeah.
and still just allow other people to be without attacking them, hurting them, humiliating them, being condescending to them? And then
And yeah, exactly. And it's like what that's been your journey, and they have their journey, and we don't know, are they at the beginning of their journey, and they have to find things out for themselves. So that's where we go back to holding space for them and giving them a safe space for them to figure things out for themselves. And
without having to poo-poo on them.
that's right. That's where the unconditional love. So, maybe we go backwards. If we have unconditional love, it's easier to provide a safe space for someone, and to give them that hold that space for them. So I think all of this is just it circles around. One will lead to the other. Like it's not one is more important than the other. I think it allows for a balance.
Absolutely. And then the law of allowing. The law of allowing is a spiritual principle that encourages us to release control and let things unfold naturally. It is practice of non-resistance. Trust that life and the universe and divine are conspiring in our favor. This I felt like was important to me right now too, because there's a lot of people there's is people in my life right now that, like I said, some people are completely up and I'm feeling like all I do is win, 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 no matter what. Like I'm all hype and like and other people are like, I'm going through something, I'm feeling away, and I don't want to insert myself, I don't want to fix them or change them, but I do hope for them the best. And I know that I have like my prayers and my actions and things, my plans that I know that I'm kind of cheering from the sidelines. So I was thinking about this today, Terri, like where are the different places that we can cheer from? Because sometimes you're in the space with the person, and then sometimes you have to pull yourself out onto the sidelines because you just can't deal with it. And then sometimes you have to pull yourself away to the point where maybe you're not even really communicating, but you're sending them your best wishes and love, because you guys just can't maintain that close space anymore because it's too harmful for each of you, but you still love the person. And I don't know where you stand on this, the law of allowing.
Mm-hmm.
Also, too, allowing, I think, and when I was younger, I think something happened where I was just programmed in a way where everything had to be done immediately, fast. I got to see it now. If it's an argument, you got to fix it now. If it's a, like everything had to be down. But I think it's because when I was younger, I always was taught about, oh, we're all going to die and Jesus is coming back. I used to my whole life used to be speeded up in a hurry. But now I'm understanding, if anything, even if someone calls me on the phone, it's like, you got to do this now. That's an immediate no for me. Like, I'm backing away from anything where it's impulse, pushy, fast paced. If I got to rush to make a decision, then the decision is no. Like, unless I am making it. And so I'm saying, if outside forces are pushing me like, rush, hurry, I'm immediately no. And focusing on the fact that I have time, because that's how we end up getting competitive, right? If we start feeling like, oh, we got to hurry up, the resources are gone, and we're not going to have anything, and because that's lack mentality, right? Mm-hmm. So it's focusing out of lack, like lack of resources, lack of love, lack of support from the creator. So now I focus on the opposite of just taking my time, and that's like the complete opposite of how I lived my life before.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing with the law of allowing is, and this is one that we all struggle with, is judgment, right? We judge other people based on what we think without giving them the space to discover what it is and who they are. But we will judge things based on our understanding, on our belief system, on what we've experienced, without giving the other person necessarily the room and the space for them to be able to do that on their own and figure out what it is or how they need to proceed. So we sit there and, so if we allow people to do this, then we step outside of our judgment as well.
You know what you just said, upside down world, inside out world. That's what comes to me when you say that, because we assume that we have the answers, because we learn a thing and we think that this is the absolute thing, or we feel a thing, we feel that this is the absolute thing. And it doesn't allow room for other people's perspective or other ideas or bigger picture. Sometimes we are actually living as if we have the answer to everyone's problems, or we know it all. And it's like, actually, no, we don't. Because, I could count the times where I felt the answer was, I just should live alone, and I should be alone, and everything is alone. There's no one for me, and then I'm like, there's these times where I'm like, love is the answer, love is the key, and there's someone for me, and and then I can move into like these different spaces of different ideas, where at the time this is the thing, right? And I'm gonna pump this out and filter it out to other people, instead of just being like,
this is my experience today.
My experience today, and we shall see.
Yeah.
Allow us to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
So some people left. They might have ran out of time. Come back. Come back. Come back. Okay, so then the law of allowing, and the last one. And so basically, I think it's the same thing. Like, you're talking about getting to the point of radical acceptance. And radical acceptance is the practice of embracing reality as it is, without resistance or denial. I think before we can ever change things and manifest something new, we have to get to the point where we can accept, like, well, what if this is the way it's supposed to be?
Right.
It is the act of deep spiritual surrender, allowing the release of suffering. And so this is where I've gotten to where, like, you observe your emotions and you decide, like, do I have to be angry about that? Or can I just accept it and kind of like move into another space to create something else? So allowing us to release the suffering that arises from wishing things were different. Radical acceptance does not mean we condone harmful behavior or give up on growth. It simply means that we meet the present moment without rejection, accept it as it is, making room for true healing and empowerment. So that is the last one for me. And I don't know what you have to say about that radical acceptance, because I believe it's kind of like it's similar to unconditional love. It's
I
similar.
think so. Yeah, it's just that next step to it, right?
It's just that next step. But in it all, if
Yeah,
we can do these things, then we can allow, truly be multi-dimensional.
yeah. This is
Truly,
true, and
like,
you know, like maybe that radical acceptance is like is stepping back, not from not from ground level, not from the second floor level, but maybe going to the 10th floor level, stepping back and just looking at the big picture, and just seeing that there is a story here, and people are weaving themselves through the story. You know, they'll get to see the big picture. But, you know, for us, it's like, okay, if we move up and we're just saying that there's a bigger picture here. And so we can hone in on somebody at that one space, but they have to discover that, oh, wait a minute, this is a bigger picture. I have to move out from here. And so they'll do it in their own time, because, like, you know, you can't expect to get to the same place if you left on Tuesday and I left on Wednesday, and we're going someplace. We're not going to get there at the same pace, you know, because we're already one days ahead of the other one. So there's no judgment in it, you know. You know, we were leaving from I don't know, we're leaving from Minneapolis, and we're driving down to Florida, and you left on Tuesday and I left on Wednesday. We're not going to get there at the same time. Let's just, you know, if we're driving the same route or we're taking a different route.
hey Steve, hey Brian, they both sent us some messages.
Now,
Steve Nowak.
hi Steve. Hi,
We
hi
miss
Brian.
you because we wanted to talk to you, and I can't remember what it was about, but we do want to talk to you because I know you're doing
Yeah.
some great things. Also, Chris Pridham, because Chris Pridham, I think in March, is having there's a conference he's having down here in Orlando that has to do with I think it has to do with like a different form of it's not the zodiac, something else. But anyway, we're saying hi to you guys and thank you for hanging out with us. But
Yeah.
safe
So with the
space.
cards, it's just interesting that we're talking about, you know, what we end up talking about and the cards that were pulled. So the first card that was pulled was
Terri, you are out of order, ma'am.
why am I out of order?
Yeah, you usually introduce the card deck. I'm showing your card deck.
Okay, you know what? It's interesting because we have a tendency to always do things the same way. So I was
Well, you
reading,
said you're breaking it up.
breaking it up. Exactly.
Oh shucks, oh shucks. She's
Okay,
breaking it
so
up.
today the cards are from the Energy and Spirit Oracle deck with Sandra Ann Taylor.
I think the cover of the deck is important because the bird is freed from the cage, so we're letting it out. Let it all hang out, y'all.
It's
Let it all out.
flying the coop. Exactly. Lovely. I never noticed that. So the first card is balance, and we were just talking about finding that balance and centered energy and self care. So, you know, we can we can't provide a safe space for anybody unless we're in balance, and we have to realize that that's an important aspect to our being, and it is about finding that balance, finding your center every day. You know, like, it's easy to get pulled aside one way or the other, but, you know, once we can hold our own space, then it becomes much easier to be that safe space for someone else, because we're not being so pulled by.
Well, if you can't breathe, how are you gonna help somebody else? They always say, "What? Don your own face mask first. Get you right." Because honestly, like, I noticed this about myself. I can be like in this space of being triggered by people, but then I'm like, wait a minute, is it them or is it me? And then when I check myself, now I can be in the space of love for other people because I have to get me right where I'm not flailing and I'm not lashing out. I'm not being paranoid. I'm not being inconsistent. Now I can operate from the space of a higher space, a space of love. And I can't hold space for someone else when I haven't held the space for myself now to be and to get right. I could be an emotional mess, right?
Right.
I can be distraught. And so
Yeah.
it's like accepting this about yourself. And I think sometimes maybe we think we reach a certain level where we don't do this anymore. And it's like, no, you can be tripping at any level. And I'm gonna
Right.
just say tripping. You could be losing it spiritually at any level. Because
Yeah.
there's at these new levels, you're gonna still be challenged and grow. It's gonna be like the repeat cycle from kindergarten to fifth grade, from sixth grade to ninth grade,
Yeah.
from ninth grade to high school, then from first level university to fourth level university, and going on to the master's degree. Like the cycle of growth, you are gonna find yourself in need of learning the same lesson, but maybe at a higher level.
Right.
So
Right.
don't think that you just got it all. There's gonna still be another test, but it's a higher
Well,
level.
you get to that one level and you've reached it, and it's like, oh, I think I got a handle on it. And then, like 3 days later, it's like, damn, I don't know anything because
Right.
you started
Then when
on
you
that.
went to this, when you were in the eighth grade and you got to middle school, you thought, "Oh my God, nobody can tell me nothing. I got this whole thing figured out." And then you're just back to being a squirt in the ninth grade.
There's that old saying, I wish I knew now that what I knew when I was 18.
Yeah, yeah.
So it is, I think it's important to really find our center, find our balance, and bring ourselves back into there, but just by breathing, tapping your heart. That's one, those are physical things that you can do to bring yourself back in. And just like, and then just weigh the things, or just look at, there's two sides to everything, not just your side, there's also another side. So like, coming into that space, it's easy for us to say as Libras, but there's
You know
another
what's
side.
interesting about him too? Not only is he trying to walk across this ladder rope,
Yeah.
he stepped his game up by putting a, bu- a ball there, right?
Yeah.
So it's like taking it challenging on a higher level, right?
Hmm.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah.
He's doing the most right now. So
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, sometimes it's not easy to find that space of balance, but we all have the ability to do it. So it's maybe just stepping back a little bit, taking a breath, get into your heart space, and just, okay, what do I need to just bring myself back into center? And like, that can help you to move forward if you're in a place of balance. And then the next one is the wisdom of the Magi and mental clarity. We have, just like what you were saying with you and Kim, is that magic is within us. Like, we are eternal beings, so we have that ability to connect with aspects of that other realm that are magical, whether we want to call them spirit guides or magical guides or angels or whatever. Like, they're always around us. So these are those guides that we have the ability to um, connect with, and they can help us to find that mental clarity.
all right. So wisdom and the magi.
Yeah. And then the last one was the journey guide, travel, change of location. So we began the show about talking about journeys and moving where it was warmer or taking that trip. But sometimes it's taking the trip, the mental trip, the journey within, and trusting that we do have the guides that will show us, what is our next step. And sometimes the journey can take us on a physical journey, but it can also take us on a journey within and discovering different aspects of and deeper aspects of our being.
I like that you pointed out in that way, because it could be physical or it does not have to be. I'm
Yeah.
gonna tell you something. I was struggling with a bad habit, but I noticed whenever I was away from home, I didn't have that habit. And there was something that I watched before that told me, it was talking about how when we are at home, all those, all those things creep in. This is the familiar space for those familiar activities and spirits and energies. And sometimes you can clear the energy, but sometimes what you need is
Yeah.
to get out of the space. I noticed that I have one friend, they got a porch just like me. I got a porch, they got a porch, but somehow when I'm on their porch, I can stay outside for hours. But in my backyard, I'm like, I go out and I get my butt back in. But at this other space, when I'm in this new space, it's like, let me take in the sun. Let me do some sun gazing. Let me stretch on the patio. Like, it just creates room. Sometimes we got to switch it up, change it up. We got to get out of that space. And sometimes it's from your inside of the house to the outside of the house. Sometimes it's from your house to someone else's house or down the street. It could be down the street. It could be another part of the country.
Yeah. Or it can be just go for a walk in the park.
Could be down the street and up around.
Just get out in nature, and that sometimes will help to clear your space around you. Is just because we're so inundated with so much mental pollution, that sometimes going to a space like a park, there's nothing around. There's the trees, there's the lawn, the grass, the flowers, or whatever, and there's no mental pollution, right? And so sometimes just going into that space, and that's why when we do travel, we feel different, because like you said, all that stuff is foreign to us. So it's still there, but it doesn't interact with us the same way it does when we walk into our own space. So
This is great.
so it's about finding a sacred space for ourselves.
I love this. We're going long today, and I like it. Even this weekend, Terri, like a friend of mine was like, "Hey, let's go," and I was like, "Sure." I'm like wide open. Let's go walk down the street, go downtown, walk down the street, and see what's going on. And my goodness, I was opened up to seeing, some young people hanging out, doing activities, and I was just like, wow. I enjoyed watching the people be joyful, doing whatever it is that they do. Might not be my life, but just observing people being happy, different kinds of people, just how they were socializing. And it allowed me to tap into reality, because we can be at home and online or watching the news or TV or a bunch of videos about just how terrible things are or how great things are or how mysterious things are. But then we got to get out into this space to see reality and see that, what, people are still living and thriving and surviving. And, people of all races are still, connecting. People of all genders are connecting, because we got like a fake gender war going on. We got a fake race war that they're promoting. Not that it's not real. It is definitely real, but it's being propaganda promoted to separate us. People who believe in Democrat versus Republican, when if we could wash away
Labels.
these political labels, the bullshit that they're pumping out on the news, all the propaganda from the left and the right, if we could get rid of this propaganda, it just reminds me of how 9/11, and we're not going to say how 9/11 happened or anything, but the fact was, when it came to people in the streets, people were like, are you okay? Or, like, it wasn't, people weren't looking at so much of your political beliefs or your religious beliefs. They were just out there like, are you okay? 9/11, or just all these, when it's a hurricane, people don't stop and be like, wait a minute, are you a Muslim? Are you spiritual? They just say, oh, do you need help? You see what I'm saying? And so, but when we go back outside and begin to rip away some of the
Labels.
the labels of me versus
And identities,
the identities, then we just come back down to the core of being human and the core of what some spiritual beings are here for, which is what? Giving love unconditionally, holding space for people, trying to understand their perspective, and trying to understand your role in the universe, allowing things to unfold without drawing all these lines, because these lines are destroying the fabric of what we come to do. And it's manipulating us to move into the space of us versus them, where this is not what we actually came for.
Right.
So that's my summary of it all.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
It came out to be, because I'm telling you, me and Terri talked at 11:30, and we were like, I don't know. We hadn't even pulled the cards yet at 11:30. So, but here we are.
Here we are at 1:30, and all of a sudden, look at what came together.
I think this was a powerful conversation. And I think you should let us know if it was a powerful conversation. If you a hate watcher and you don't like none of what we talked about, I don't care. Post it. If you loved what we talked about, I do care. Post it. I'm not here to tell you what your response should be. I actually just want to know what your actual feelings or response are, whether you like it or whether you don't.
Hello, Jonathan.
I know, Jonathan. Thank you all for checking in.
Yeah, and we're going to do some readings.
Oh, you got time today.
I've got time today. Too cold to do anything else today. Minus 20 Celsius right now.
That is so funny. Okay, let me change the weather to Celsius so I can relate on my
minus
phone.
20. Now it's minus 19. So it's about zero.
Okay, so Miami is 27. I like to do the weather, y'all. Miami is 27. Orlando's 27. Cairo, 16. New York, 6. Winnipeg, -20. Markham, -20. Colombia, 24. Arizona, 22. And Charleston, South Carolina, 22. So then, if you guys want that in Fahrenheit, Miami 80, Orlando 81, Cairo 62, New York 42, Winnipeg -3, Markham 21, Colombia 75, Arizona 72, Charleston, South Carolina 72. Jonathan says hi.
All right.
Get your electric blankets out up there and warm your buns, y'all.
Well, the sun is shining, so the sun is warm. It's warming these days. Thank you. And yeah,
we don't pull it out of our buns. Where do we pull it out of? We pull it out of the ether.
Yes.
That's what we could say. We pull it out of the ether.
It just filters down through our thoughts and words.
Let me see if I press this button, y'all, because it says in stream, but we got to play the best outro. I don't know if it's going to play it. Oh, so okay, good. They've changed something with StreamYard, so now you can choose your outro.
Oh,
So that's set as my outro. And we're saying goodbye. Thank you for hanging out.
thanks for.
So long.
Now we're fluing out. We're
Saying
flued out.
goodbye. Goodbye.